Welcome to the My Brain, My Happiness podcast. My name is Joe, and on each episode, it is my goal to spread awareness on mental health. No, I'm not a therapist, a psychiatrist, or a medical doctor. I'm just a guy who has had a lifelong relationship with mental illness, specifically OCD. Together with you, I want to blow the roof off the stigma that comes with having a mental illness. You need to know you're not alone. I promise this podcast will be upbeat and positive. My goal with each episode is to make you understand that you don't have to take this on alone or in silence. Now let's change some lives. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 20 of My Brain, My Happiness. This is Joe. Very special episode for me today. I have with me my friend Rich, who in his 40s was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And then if that's not enough to have something rare like that be diagnosed with, in his early 60s he got diagnosed with ALS. But Rich is an unbelievable person. He maintains a positive attitude and lives life to the fullest. And we can all get some inspiration for how he lives his life. You know, we talk about all the time about overcoming obstacles and how, you decide how you're going to challenge them. And you are the one who are in control of how you feel about things and how you are going to react to things. And you can sit around and you can have a pity party, or you can face your challenges head on and live life to the fullest. And that is what my good friend Rich does. He lives his life to the fullest. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rich.
Hello, everyone. This is my first podcast, so I'm a little nervous.
Anyways, Rich, I've known you for since
almost 20 years.
Yeah, it has been a long time. I know. I think it's been since 2005, 2006 around.
2006, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And so why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Where you grew up. Different things that you've done through life. Your how you served our country and things of that nature.
I grew up in Enfield, Connecticut, which is a nice town. That's where Joe lives now. And I was originally from California. My parents moved here when I was 2 years old. After high school, I joined the Navy, spent 4 years working on F4s, and took 2 cruises on an aircraft carrier. Each one was 6 or 7 months long. Came back, went to technical school for electronics, and got into the IT business. And then I spent 42 years in IT, and I just retired last May.
Hey, congratulations on your retirement, by the way.
Yeah.
I got a few years to go before I get to retire, but congratulations on that. So, Rich, when I first met you, I remember you were like this epitome of health, right? I know you were heavy into bicycling, right? And I would talk to you. You would tell me, "Oh, I just went for a bike ride that was, I don't know, 1,000,000 miles or whatever you would do." But
hey, I used to do 25, 30-mile bike rides almost every other day.
Yeah, and I remember you were going to the gym on a regular basis, and you just really were conscientious about your health. I always remember that about you. So let's fast forward a little bit to when you were diagnosed with Parkinson's. What were you feeling? How did you know that there was something wrong to make you get this checked out?
Well, it started off with my right arm. In the middle of the night, if I'd go to adjust a blanket, it would be excruciatingly painfully tight.
Yeah.
I couldn't really move my right arm.
No shit. Okay.
The bicep. So I went to the doctor. He's like, "Oh, you just pulled a muscle or something. Take Motrin for 2 weeks and you'll be fine." And of course, I wasn't.
Yeah.
So I went to an orthopedic specialist, and he prescribed physical therapy.
Yeah.
Which I did for 2 months. And then I did another 2 months on my own. And the stiffness in the bicep went away, but I didn't get dexterity back in my hands. So he sent me to a neurologist at St. Francis. And the guy looked at me for 10 minutes. Then he went and talked to my primary care doctor, and he comes back and says, "I'm almost positive you have Parkinson's disease. There's no cure, and it's progressive." And I was like, what the fuck is that?
Oh, my God.
And this guy had no bedside manner, so I just was I was in shock.
And you were like 48 at the time?
48, yeah.
48. I mean, and listen, Parkinson's is kind of near and dear to my heart. As you know, my father had the syndrome, Parkinsonism syndrome, which was being brought on. We've later discovered was being brought on by mini strokes. I don't really know, to be honest with you, exactly all the details behind what was going on with my dad. But, I mean, he was in his 60s when he got diagnosed with that. And the doctor told him, oh, you're going to die of old age before you die of this. You know what I mean? And so, but to be diagnosed at such an early age, I mean, you hear, it was something when Michael J. Fox, got diagnosed at a young age. But it is a rare thing at that young of age to be diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, is it not?
Yeah, it's pretty rare. Yeah, I was in shock for like a week, and then I did more research into it. And I mean, at least with Parkinson's, there's like 25 different medications that you could try.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. And then the big breakthrough came in 2019 when I had a deep brain stimulation implant put in my head. There's a battery pack in my chest, and wires run up the back of my neck and go down into each side of my brain, and it sends out electrical pulses like 30 or 40 times a second.
Yeah.
And it helps stabilize me so that I'm not so up and down, because that's the problem with the Parkinson's medication, is the off time where you're going up and down, up and down. And this has smoothed things out tremendously. It's made a big difference.
I actually remember you prior to you being on that. I can remember us hanging out and having guys' night out or whatever, and just watching you even struggle to cut your food up,
Right,
and then you got that implant, and it was like you were a different guy. All of a sudden, you were moving around a lot better. You were, meals weren't a problem for you. It was pretty impressive actually to see that. And
then the last April they replaced the battery with a new one because the battery begins to wear out.
Yeah,
and it's been pretty good. Every time I go see my neurologist, she tweaks it a little bit more because it's a fine line between too much stimulation and not enough.
Yeah.
Because if you get too much, then you start to get the dyskinesia where you start twitching around after a while.
Right. So at such a young age to get diagnosed with that, because I've always known you to have this, positive outlook on it. You've never really talked about it as being a hindrance for you. I know you're a big advocate for it. I see your Facebook posts all the time. But what made you be able to stay positive and say, listen, I got a life to live. This is what I have. This is the cards. Because a lot of people would crumble in this situation. A lot of people would just sit around and have the pity party. I always talk about the pity parties. And you know what? You'd have every right to have a pity party. And even if, and I'm sure you did at first. I'm sure you're like, why me, right? Why me?
Exactly.
But then you have to I guess you got to a point of acceptance, and like before we even get fast forwarding to the ALS diagnosis, we still did a ton of shit. We went out and had a lot of laughs and stuff like that, and you never really let it be you had it.
I didn't let it define me. It wasn't going to define me.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I talk about when you look at an obstacle and it's all in how you decide you're going to take it on. Right. So
I mean, there wasn't anything I could do about it. It progresses no matter what.
Yeah. And
I'm just going to live my life like I want to.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's amazing. And it's funny. There's people, we all think that we have these big problems in our lives, and when you talk to somebody like you who was dealt with that at such a young age, and obviously there's people who probably have bigger problems than that, but still, I mean, there's people we get so fucking stressed out about. I mean, I couldn't find my keys this morning, and I was literally going to lose my mind. Like, I was losing my mind. Here I was on my way to come see you to talk about this, and I was losing my mind because I couldn't find my keys. So it's impressive. It's impressive that you decided these are the cards that I was dealt, and I'm gonna live my life to the fullest.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, the biggest issue I have now is fatigue. My body fatigues very quickly.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, if I want to do something around the house, I have to do it first thing.
Yeah.
Because by the end of the day or in the afternoon, I'll be too tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. That's really the only thing that's holding me back right now is the fatigue issues, and we're working on that. They did a sleep study, and I have obstructed sleep apnea, so they're going to fit me with a CPAP machine come the VA come March 6th.
Okay.
So, and that should relieve some of the fatigue, chronic fatigue.
That's excellent. And so how long was it before, because when you were first diagnosed with it, whatever, I think you would still go on bike ride and stuff like that. You still were taking care of yourself. How long was it before how many years was it before you had to start to slow that down? Because I don't, it's had to start to take obviously a toll on you.
Yeah. Probably 10 years.
Yeah. 10 years. Well, that's pretty good. And I know you still take care of yourself the best you can. I mean, I guess you have to.
Yeah.
You have to take care of yourself the best you can. So that's impressive. So, and then, all right, so now we fast forward, I don't know how many years, how many years is that later? 12 years later? Or something like that?
It's 14, I think.
14 years later, you start, what do you start experiencing?
Well, I start tripping because my right foot was dragging.
Mm-hmm.
And after 8 months of testing and 9 different specialists, they determined that it was ALS.
Yeah.
So that kind of put a damper on things ALS is a death sentence.
Yeah.
And it really threw me. That one threw me a lot more than the Parkinson's did.
And that's understandable.
The Parkinson's I had to accept it.
Yeah.
ALS was very difficult to accept. It took me a lot. And finally I resigned myself to it. And the good news is, after 2.5 years of being diagnosed and being tested and all that other stuff, there doesn't appear to be any progression in the disease. And now they're thinking, I probably don't have ALS.
Which is amazing news.
Yeah.
Amazing news. And I know you don't have that definitive yet.
Yeah.
But, you're talking about a disease that is, like we talked about, a 2.5 to 3 year life expectancy after being diagnosed. We can't all be the Stephen Hawkins of the world who get diagnosed and live a long time with it. But I know that every time you told me you went to the doctors, they were saying we're not seeing any progression, and they talked about a different form of ALS at one time.
Looking at everything, it can't be that, or it's a form they haven't seen before.
Right.
The doctor said if this is ALS, it's the slowest progressing ALS I've ever seen.
So I wonder, and I'm no doctor, right? But I wonder if your Parkinson's is playing into all this, and it's just kind of
that's his feeling too.
Yeah.
Parkinson's has a lot to do with it, and he's going to do an MRI on my back to see what's impinging the nerves.
Yes,
because there's definitely some. The diagnostics show there's an issue.
Yes,
they're just not sure exactly where it's coming from, whether it's my back or my neck, or maybe somewhere further down the line.
Well, let's hope that it's not ALS, obviously, and but it's still. You just recently found this out, and
it's
what
a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah. I remember when you told me, I didn't even know how to handle it. Like I didn't know what to say or how I was feeling, because one of my best friends had just told me he'd been diagnosed with ALS, and I was talking to my wife about it, and I'm like, listen, we need to make sure, it's imperative that we make sure that we go see Rich and Claire a lot more than we do now, because just to let you guys know, this is all Rich's fault, by the way. He and I used to live a lot closer to each other, all right? And then he was in Wethersfield, and then this guy decided, let's go fucking move down by the shore. So then he moved an hour and 20 minutes away from me, so we weren't seeing each other as much. And then, we went out to dinner one night, and Rich told me, hey, give me a call later, I got to tell you something. And when he delivered that news to me, he's been such a close friend, like a brother to me for so long, that I don't want to make this about me at all. I'm just saying that, it makes you do a lot of self-reflection. It really does. You look at, when you think things are hard for you, and God knows I've been through my own roller coaster in life, but
Yep.
I look at that stuff now that I went through as like nothing compared to probably the roller coaster of emotions that you've been through.
Well,
Go ahead. Sorry.
The hardest thing was, how do you tell people? How do you tell friends and family that you've been given this sentence?
Yeah.
And you don't know how long you're going to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like, I didn't know how to do it.
No.
That was very difficult.
I bet it was. But what's been amazing to me, Rich, is that I've known you. Obviously, I knew you before you were diagnosed with any of this stuff. And I actually think, it's kind of strange, but I actually think that you were more, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It almost seems like your outlook on life and everything got more positive after, you know what I mean? There used to be a lot of stuff that seemed to bother you more prior to this diagnosis than afterwards. Like, it almost like your whole outlook on life changed. Like, listen, I got to cherish each day.
Exactly.
That's
exactly
and it just, this a message that I try to deliver to people is that life is precious.
And who knows when it's going to end?
You don't know.
It could be tomorrow, or it could be 10, 20 years, 30 years from now.
Exactly. And you get dealt cards that like people don't survive. And God willing, I this news sounds promising. I really hope it's not. I mean, listen, we've been talking about this slow progression of your disease, the ALS disease. We've been talking about it for a couple of years now. Like, they're just not seeing the normal markers and everything that would indicate a progression of disease. So it's been baffling to them. So hopefully it's a misdiagnosis and they can figure out what's going on. But you know what? You didn't know that. Right?
No.
You just found this out, right? So this whole time you've been living with the fact that you were dealt an ALS diagnosis, and I just find it so inspirational, the attitude that you have kept. We've gone out, you and your wife and me and my wife, and we've gone out. We always have a good time. You always have an upbeat attitude. We had a lot of laughs, and I think people should be inspired by that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this podcast.
I mean, that's why I retired. Claire and I talked about retiring early.
Yeah.
And I did, because we could financially, it worked out good. We spoke with a financial advisor first to make sure everything was okay. And that's why we took the cruise to Alaska. That's why we got married.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to give kudos to my wife, because she puts up with a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things I physically just can't do that she has taken on that burden, and she never complains.
And that's crucial, to have a partner in life. Another thing that I've talked about on previous episodes and on my TikTok page is that if you don't have a partner that supports you, then it makes it even that much more difficult. And I try to even talk to the people who, like, I'll never know what it's like to be diagnosed. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know what it's like to be diagnosed with ALS, right? I don't know what it's like to be diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I just know what it's like to be diagnosed with OCD, depression, anxiety. I mean, I know that, right? I can speak from that. And what I try to tell people who don't have a mental illness or who haven't walked in somebody else's shoes that are dealing with this is that until you have, shut the fuck up. Like, seriously, like, don't be frustrated with people because they're not doing what you want them to do. Because if we could, right? If you could, right? You would jump up, and get on a bike and ride 30 miles again. I bet you'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I know listen, we both had people from our past that really weren't supportive. It's a struggle for everybody involved. But it's more irritating when you think you have somebody, in your corner, and at the end of the day, it turned out that they're not.
Yeah.
But I don't get mad at those. I don't get mad at those people because they just don't understand.
No.
And you'll never make them understand, and until they have it themselves,
right,
or have to deal with it themselves.
I think one of the things that helped me turn my attitude around was my wife and I. We were talking, and I was talking about all the things that I was going to miss doing.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why don't I focus on the things I can do?
Yeah.
I can still do a lot of different things. And, keeping the focus on that has helped me a lot. And I started meditating again, something I used to do all the time, but that's really helped me a lot too.
That is unbelievable. That's probably the best line of this podcast. I mean, best line of this episode we've had, right? You focused on the things that you can do, right?
Yep.
Live life to the fullest. Live and just you've accepted your diagnosis, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna just do everything I can.
Yeah.
That's it. There's some things I can't do, but I'm gonna live my life. Whatever years I have left are gonna be quality years, right?
Yep.
That's just saying. And to maintain that attitude, Rich, you're one of the strongest guys I know. Seriously, I mean, you really are. I would have crumbled like a fucking stale cookie if it was me.
Joe, I've seen you do a 180-degree turnaround from the first time I met you.
I know. Yeah. I mean,
you were a mess.
I do want to mention I talked about in one of my episodes that when I had my breakdown, there was a certain group of people that were there to support me, and so there was a couple friends, and I talked that my ex-wife was there, my first ex-wife, but one of the friends that was there who came to see me in the mental hospital was Rich, and there wasn't, people, were afraid of a mental hospital, but not Rich. Rich came to see me and was there and had my back, along with my friend John, along with my first ex-wife Linda, and so the gratitude I have for him for that is unbelievable. I appreciate you saying that. I really do. And we've had a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, we have had a lot of fun.
And we're gonna, it's gonna keep on going.
Yeah,
it's gonna keep on going. And this is such what you told me is promising news.
Yeah, it's like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders.
I really hope that they say, you know what, this is not ALS. We fucked up. We missed the diagnosis. And it's, I don't know, you have a cold. Yeah, you stubbed your toe, and what happened was the pain pinched a nerve in your knee, which went up to your neck. We mistook it for ALS, or sorry, but really all you need to do is put ice on your big toe.
Yeah.
I joke around, but like I said, you didn't know that. You didn't know this potentially new diagnosis, and you've been living these last few years under the impression that, you're not only dealing with Parkinson's, which is hard enough as it is, as we see it from people who have it, to dealing with an ALS diagnosis and doing it, staring down life and saying, fuck you, I'm going to live my life. And there is nothing that's going to stop me from doing what I can do,
Yeah.
And
it's... there's certain things I know I just can't do anymore. I can't go for long walks.
Yeah.
I can't go hiking. There's just my foot. I have a new foot brace.
Yep.
But it's still, I can only walk like maybe a mile at the most.
Yeah. But you do it, right? You get up and you go for your mile walk. Well,
when the wind's not blowing 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like it has this week, because it's brutal. It's been brutal this week.
I know you do all you can do.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that you just keep
I use that thing a couple times a week, an elliptical trainer.
Oh, elliptical trainer.
And then I do a lot of stretching. I do a lot more stretching than I used to.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to get back into a good routine. That was the thing when I retired. My routines kind of went away.
Yeah.
Because I would hop on that thing in between meetings, and so it's good. It's just a new lifestyle that I got to get used to.
And I bet you, the fact that you took care of yourself all those years plays a huge part in maybe how your body is reacting now. I don't know. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I've been a big proponent of, I walk every single day. I try to walk 15 to 18,000 steps a day.
Wow.
You have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you did, is probably helped you,
be in better shape than I would be if I hadn't worked out. I was just thinking, I have to remember that I'm not 25 anymore. I'm 65.
Yeah.
My body's not going to let me do those things anymore.
Exactly.
I mean, I used to do heavy leg presses. I did 6 45-pound plates on each side of the machine.
Yeah.
If I did an empty machine, I'd be in the hospital for a week.
Oh, man.
But, it's just like I work out when I can. And I do what my body lets me do. And if I overdo it, it lets me know.
Yeah. Well, Rich, listen, your story has been unbelievable. Like I said, because this is the 20th episode of my podcast, I wanted to do something special. And I couldn't think of anybody that was more of an inspiration, or who should be an inspiration to people, to take a little bit of a better look at themselves, have some self-reflection, and realize that maybe their fucking problems are not that big in the grand scheme of things. We all have obstacles, and it's all in how we take on obstacles. And, our brains are wired to, we have that whole fight or flight thing, and most of the time our brains, to protect us, will choose to flight. It's just how we're wired, and we've been wired that way but it's the people who can look at it and say, I'm going to take this on. Fuck, this is what I'm dealt. I'm not going to sit around and just do nothing about it. And so I hope that everybody out there got something out of Rich's story. Like I said, he's one of the strongest guys I know. And, I hope that you're able to just take a look at yourself and realize that there are challenges that you will have in life that you are going to be able to overcome.
I just want to say that Joe is a huge inspiration to me, the way he turned his life around, physically and emotionally. He's the strongest guy I know.
I appreciate that, Rich. I really do. And I'm just out here trying to help people, and we'll see where this goes. But this has been a great podcast. You're a great friend, man. I love you, buddy. I really do.
I love you too, buddy.
And anyway, this has been Joe and Rich. This is episode 20 here of My Brain, My Podcast. Stay safe, everybody, and peace and love you.
Oh, yeah.